This is Gemara Nazir Daf Nun Ches, and Baruch Hashem, closing out another incredible month of learning the Daf, and the month of Nisan, the month of Geula. B'siyata Dishmaya on the horizon. Anyone who like to partner, spreading some Torah throughout the month of Nisan, the wonderful days of Pesach. Of course, all you have to do is reach out. It's always our pleasure to share this chos. And we pick it up in the bottom of Nun Vav Amid Beis. We dove very deeply into the sugya of Hakafas Kol HaRoish, the sugya when one is allowed or not allowed, I shall say, to cut off the payas, to shave his head, etc. And of course, there's really three sugyas that are converging. There's the regular Isser of shaving off your payas, of cutting off your payas. That's number one. Corresponding to that, or opposing that, I should say, is Nazir and Mitzaira that has a din to do just that. Nazir and Mitzaira has the din to do what? To shave their head and to remove their pay. So we started yesterday, and now we pick it up. 3 lines from the bottom. Says the Gemara, Lema Kavas Kol HaRoish Tanoi. Shall we say that whether Akafas Kol HaRoish, that when you shave everything, if that is included in the Isser D'Oraisa of removing one's payas, whether that is included, let's say it is a Machlokes Tanoim. T'Tana Rabbanan, we learned in our Braisa. Roishai. So now the truth is, in order to understand what's about to happen, let's take a moment to appreciate the pasuk. So anyone who's looking at their screens, or anyone who's looking at their Gemara, so pasuk in Vayikra Yudal attests that the pasuk reads, "V'haya b'yom hashvi." What should happen on the 7th day? This is by a Mitzaira. Yigalach as kol sa'aroi, shaves off all his hair, as roishai, v'zikanoi, v'zgaboy is enough. It lists specifically his head, his beard, his eyebrows, v'zkol sa'aroi yigalech. And of course, there's lots of extra words over here. The head, the beard, the eyebrows, all the hair. And then, is called Basarai, Rachsus Basar B'mayim V'tayr. And it's all these extra words. Yigalech is Kol Sarai. It concludes as Kol Sarai Yigaleach, with Rosh Zikano in the middle. That is what we're going to now deal with in Darshan in the upcoming sugya. And in case yesterday felt a little familiar, it should be, because this really brings us back to a Gemara in Nazir that we had a short while ago on Daf Mem Aleph, as well as the Gemara in Yevamos on Daf Hey, and this is the big picture sugya of Asay Doicha Loisa Asay. So says the Gemara, 2 lines to the bottom, the Tana Rabbanon, Roishay Matam Loimar. What does the pasuk specifically point out? Roishay his head, Lefi Shenemar, because it's a general Isser, Loisa Kifu Pas Roishaychem, that you're not let around the corners of your head as we turn over. Since you're not let around the corners, Yachol, I would think Af Mitzaira Kain. I would think as well, a Mitzaira is not allowed to cut off the corners, he's not allowed to shave his head. Now, anyone who's wondering, why would you have such a Havamina? One is an Asay, and one is a Lois Asay. And of course, we have a general rule of Asay, Doich Lois Asay, and that's a good question, and that's going to be one of the opinions that we're going to quote in a moment. But says the Gemara, I would think that even a Mitzaira is not allowed to shave off his head, Tamaloimar, Roishay. So Braisa number 1 teaches us that the pasuk of Roishay teaches me a specific allowance for a Mitzaira to shave his head and to quote unquote violate Loisa Kivu Espasar Sheikhem. Baruch Atah Adonai Yalinu Melech Olam. That's one Braisa. Tani Idach. And now there's another Braisa. Second line in Chesam and Aleph. Roishay Matam Eloimer. What is supposed to say? Roishay Lefish and Emer Kabe Nazir. Because by Nazir it says, Ta'ar lo yaver al Roishay. You should not place a razor on his head. So Yachol, if since a Nazir has an Isser to shave, I would think of Nazir Mitzaira can. Maybe even a Nazir Mitzaira can shave his head. Again, that the Isser D'Oraisa, the Lav, would beat out against the Asay, and we'll explain a little more. A Nazir Mitzaira, which truly says an Asay and a Loisay, as we're going to speak out. Ta'amaloimar Roishai. Says the Torah Roishai. So 2 different ways of why the Torah had to specify Roishai. Now the Gemara explains what is the Machlokes Tanoim. My lav tanoi. Let's say that these 2 brises are a fundamental machlokes tanoim. Leman damar mi Nazir, according to the first man damar, this is going on from Nazir. Kosavar hakafas kol harosh l'shma kafa. That in reality, if you were to shave the whole head, that's not called shaving, and therefore, and therefore, what is, excuse me, I said it wrong. Leman da'amar mi Nazir, that's the second brisa that says we learn out from Nazir, that again, I would have thought hakafas kol harosh is not hakafa. So in reality, when you shave your whole head, you're not violating this in the Raisa. So what do you need a pasuk of Raisa to teach me? You need a pasuk of Raisa to teach me as loisase vase, which is the case of a Nazir mitzaira. Ve'edach, and the first brisa also of hakafas kol harosh shema kafa. So when you shave your whole head, you are violating the pasuk of lo sikivu pasur sheikha and the pasuk of milchi lav greda. And the pasuk is coming to teach me just the case of a lav. It's been a while, but I like to pull up over here the wonderful Daf Chaim notes, who so beautifully painted the picture that we're talking about. And the reason why this is really so important, because really the duration and the majority, I should say, of today's daf is going to be dealing with these two brises. So it's worthwhile to take a moment to have this perfectly clear. We have the first brisa that says it's Reisha, which teaches me a mitzaira is allowed to shave. The second brisa says a mitzaira who's a nazir could shave. What's the chiddush? The chiddush of the first brisa is even though we have a lav, the second brisa is we have a lav and an asay of a nazir and a mitzaira. This is the additional asay that a mitzaira, a nazir has to grow, a Nazir has a positive commandment and asay to grow his hair long. Kadesh gadol pera, he has to grow his hair long. And then there's the regular lois asay of the mitzaira. So the Gemara wants to suggest that this machlekes in brises is a machlekes whether hakafas kol harosh shema hakafa or not. That the first brisa holds it's called hakafa, and therefore every mitzaira, when they shave their whole head, it's called hakafa. They're violating the Isser Daraisa Lo Sekifu Pasur Sheichem, and therefore we need the pasuk of Es Roisha to say you can violate this lav. The second brisa says no, really when you shave your whole head, you're not violating the Isser Daraisa. So a regular mitzaira doesn't need a pasuk because it's not a violation of Lo Sekifu Pasur Sheichem. Why not? Because you're shaving your whole head. When is the pasuk needed? The pasuk is only needed in the case of a loisa say and asay, which is a nazir and a mitzair. And as we pointed out, why we would need a pasuk to teach me that the asay is doicha, the loisa asay is obviously a kasha, which is something that the Gemara is going to deal with in a moment, because this is going to get into the fundamental sugya of asay, doicha, loisa asay, and the second brisa learns asay, doicha, loisa asay, ve'asay. So with that clear understanding, we dive deeply into the Gemara, 10 lines down. The first one line is Chiyasa Kra, says the Gemara, Amar Rav, Rava disagrees that this is not a machlokes whether Hakafa Shema L'Reish is Shema Hakafa. Says Rava, T'kuli Am Hakafa T'kol L'Reish Lo Shema Hakafa. Really, everyone agrees it's not called Hakafa. Chiyasa Kra, so what's the pasuk of Reish coming to teach me? According to the first brisa, an interesting case. He didn't do Hakafas Kol Harosh in the case of the mitzaira. He first cut off the payas and then he shaved the whole head. Kivan, since if he would have shaved his whole head, he would not violate the Isser. Why not? Because we're saying everyone agrees that Hakafas Shema Kol Harosh Lo Shmei Hakafa. So the chiddush here is, if you just cut the base and then you shave the whole head, nami loy mechayiv. That's how Rav is going to explain the first brisa, who could agree that Hakafas Kol Harosh is loy shmei hakafa. Says the Gemara, miksiv kara hachi. But does the pasuk write this? Does the pasuk say that you can violate the asay? Any time, a fundamental rule of Reish Lakish, which we've had many times already, if I have a potential to violate an asay and a lois asay, the only time that asay is deicha lois asay is as a last resort. But if I have a way to do it without it being daicha, then of course that is preferable. So says the Gemara over here, in this interesting way, just don't do that, and therefore you will have a way to not violate the asay and the lois asay. So says the Gemara, you're right. So again, attempt number one was to argue about whether Kol Shema Kafa. Says Rava, no. The Gemara asks on Rava and destroys his reasoning. So now we have a new teretz of what the Brisa is discussing. Really, I'll tell you, everyone holds. Shaving the lead is called shaving. The second brisa, lav greda minali. So how is he going to know in general? How is he going to know that in a regular scenario, when I have a positive commandment, it outweighs, it pushes off the negative commandment? You know where he learns it from. Everyone is ready for this one. Yolef Mikitilim, we learn out from Tzitzis. Damar Cross says the Torah Loi Silba Shanes. Shouldn't wear Shanes, wool and linen. Vitani, we have a Bryce Silba Shanes, or Gedilim Tasalacha, Mayhem. But you're allowed to make Gedilim from them. You're allowed to have Tzitzis, which is a combination of wool and linen. Why? Because the Asay, the mitzvah daraisa wool of Tzitzis will override the Asay, will override the Lois Asay of Shatnez. So according to the second brisa, the place that we know Asay Dechalisa says from Tzitzis. Ask Gemara, Man de Nafkalan Miraisha, about 13 lines on the bottom. First one line is the Nafka. According to the Man de Amar that learns it out from Roisha, which is the first brisa that he learns out. Therefore we see Asay Dechalisa, my time Nafka Megedilim. Why doesn't he learn out from Tzitzis? You know why? Because the pasuk of Tzitzis is for a different reason, and this is the part that hopefully should be ringing some bells. We had this in Yavamas, etc. The sugya of Tzitzis. The Rava asks a contradiction. It says you should put Tzitzis on the corners. Min kenof. That it has to be the type of the corner. Psil techeles. And then it says it should be techeles. Another pasuk says, Samaru pishtin yachtav al-ketzat. So how do we reconcile these psukim? Samaru pishtin poitim bein beminan bein shalai beminan wool and linen work always. Shar minam only work as tzitzis beminan poitim shalai beminan ein poitim. You can only use them if the bagged, if the garment is the same type. But if it's not, then you're not. And that's where the first man, the Amar, that already knows. I say, from here, from this Nazir Mitzayir, I should say, from the pasuk of Raishai, what does he do with Gedilim? He uses it to teach me that it's only a say by Tzitzis if it's the same min. Says the Gemara, continuing to bomb away on the first brisa that uses Raishai to teach me Asay Dechalisa say Lelav Greda Dasi Asay V'Dachi Esleisa say V'Asay Mina Alon. Excuse me. According to the first brisa that learns out the Raisha teach me Asay Dechalisa say. How does he know? And Asay is Dechalisa say and an Asay. According to the second brisa, that's exactly what the pasuk is coming to teach us by a Nazir Mitzayra. But according to the first brisa, what are you going to tell me? Answers the Gemara Nafkalei Mezikanoi. He learns it from the other word in the pasuk. As we pointed out, there's numerous extra words. The Tanya Zikanoi Maita Ziknoi. The pasuk already taught us about Zikanim Leigalechu. You're not allowed to cut off the corners of the beard. Yachlai, I would think Avkain Mitzayra Kain. Even a Kain who is a Mitzayra is as well not allowed to shave his beard when he finishes his saras. Tamlamer Zikanai. Oh man, now we throw the ball back. The first brisa lasei veloisa say lilimi zikanoi. Why doesn't he learn it out from zikanoi? Why does he learn it out from Roisha? Says the Gemara, shoots the Gemara back to Kaimalan Ba'alma. According to your reasoning, that which we hold in general, as we turn over to Nenchesam Abeis, the Loyasi Asay V'Dachi Esloisa Asay V'Asay Leil of Mikayin Dedachi. Ask the Gemara 1 second. In general, what's the rule? Asay Doicha Loisasay. In general, is an Asay Doicha Loisasay and an Asay? The answer is no. So ask the Gemara, why not? According to the second brisa, we should have a clear, explicit source from the case of a koyin that Asay can be Doicha Loisasay and Asay. Says the Gemara, you're right. 2 lines down. Nun Chesem Ebeis. Ela Mikayin Lo Yalfinon. Rather, you're right. We can learn out from koyin. The reason is, Koyin is not a law that is applicable to everyone. Nazir mi koyin nami lo yalev shkin lav shin neshav v'kol. Says more than great that you can't learn anything from a koyin. How can you even learn out a Nazir from a koyin? And indeed you cannot, and therefore that is the reason why in general asay will not be deicha alois asay ve'asay. So now 4 lines down we go and we shift gears. Now we're going to ask on the second brisa. Oman de mukilai roishai bin Nazir. According to the man the Amr that says that the pasuk of roishai is talking about a Nazir. Lamali zakanai. What does he do with the pasuk of zakanai? Mi bayilech detan. You need it for a brisa. Zakanai matam lam. What is pasuk zakanai? Levi shenemar. Opa zakanam leigalech. Who says the Torah don't shave off the corners of your beard? Yachlav kaimitzarin kain tam leimar zakanai. You would think. Same things by Kohen Mitzayra. So the pasuk is Kanai. Ominola and Tibitar. It says more, very nice. But how do you know that we're dealing specifically that the Mitzayra has to shave with a razor? Titanya Paskanam Leigalechu says the Braisa. Opasakanam, the corners of your head you cannot shave off. You would think any form of cutting off the corners of one's head, he's obligated, even if it's with a misbarayim, even if it's with a scissors. You should not destroy. Destroying is getting to the root, which is not a scissors. But wait, if you only have you would think if you cut it with different types of cutting instruments, you'll be obligated. How do we have both of these things? How do we have a giluach, a shaving, and as well a ashchasa, destruction of the beard? That's only going to be possible with a tar, with a razor. Says the Gemara comes back to the first brisa. And of course, many wonder, the order of the Gemara is a little bit interesting, but it's in the conversation, we start asking the first brisa, we got caught up in the second brisa, so we asked the second brisa, and now we revert back to the first brisa. We're about 20 lines from the bottom of Nun Chesem Beis. First one line is Zetar. According to the first brisa, that Roisha is talking about alav, lamdi lemichtav, Roisha lamdi lemichtav zikanoi. Why do we need both psukim? Mashma lemidchi lav greda, or mashma lemidchi loisa seva say. Hilkach shakel. Once you have 2 mashmayis, you can learn either thing. They're both equal. Who? And therefore let them both come. And therefore we don't need to have any reference for Roisha. We should be able to learn out both dinim. Says the Gemara, Kayin mi Nazir lo yalif, shkein yashnoi b'she'ila. Nazir mi Kayin lo yalif, shkein lav she'neshav b'kol. Uba alma lo yalfina minayu. Why? Mishad the ikal amifra kedamarn, because you can ask like we said. So says the Gemara, the reason why we can't learn one from each other is because we have special uniquenesses, special milois, that by a Kayin is the lav she'neshav b'kol, by a Nazir, it's yashnon b'she'ila, a ma'ila that we've seen throughout the entire Masechtas Nedarim. Because of that, we cannot learn one from the other. We need the pasuk of Roishai as well. We'll pick it up from Rav that Mikol Adam Kol Gufay Betar B'Siyat Shmaya in the next year on Rosh Chodesh Nisan.